What I wanted to talk to you about today is the power and perils of community. Actually, it's funny that we're after each other, because mine's sort of I guess it's a realistic view on community that I thought community builders would find really valuable. So the purpose of this presentation is to help community builders to figure out how they can create more sustainable communities. So a little bit about Mum's Garage. So I said it was a year and a half ago because Mum's Garage has actually only been around for a year and a half. And so it started in my mum's garage, and it was born out of the frustrations with the lack of support for really early stage entrepreneurs. So I found that the focus in the community was really on ideas that you can invest in, or building unicorns, rather than helping people to figure out what they really care about and turn that into something like a startup. So this was us. It doesn't look nearly as good as this setup. This is my mum's garage, and this is what our early events look like, crowded around a heater in a very crappy garage. So as I said, the problem that I wanted to solve was that people weren't being taught how you turn an idea into something, so how you turn nothing into something. And the solution that I created for that was a community. And was it by choice? No, not really. There wasn't a point where I thought this was a problem, the best solution to build is a community. It was more by default. And I guess that sort of came from my strengths, which is I'm good at pulling people together and inspiring people. And I think women tend to be more naturally inclined to build communities in my experience. So community was the default solution. And the people often told me in the beginning and throughout this journey that community is really, really hard. And it is. I can tell you it is hard. Standalone community is really hard. By standalone community, I mean pure community where your product is your community rather than community built around a product. And it's hard because it's really hard to make it sustainable and scalable. And for me, I really wanted to make a big difference. The problem that I'm solving is, I believe, a global issue. It's definitely New Zealand-wide, and it's a global issue. So I really wanted to create something that had a really large-scale impact. And the reason community is hard is because of the value that is in community. So the difference between creating a community and creating something like a product or service is that with a product or service, the value is individual value. So I give you some value and you pay me in return. But for community, it's collective value. So everyone within the community is adding value. And this becomes quite hard to quantify. And so what I found is people don't value the benefits of community like they do the benefits of products. And so they're not as prepared to pay for them. And this can make building something scalable really, really hard. And the reasons I believe that they don't value them as much is, for one, as I said earlier, it's collective exchange of values. So everyone is contributing to the value of the community. Money is really an exchange for value. So if you're contributing value and you're getting value in return, then that's a fair exchange. So people are less inclined to pay for things. Secondly, the value of community is more intrinsic. It's harder to quantify. So with a product or service, you can quantify the benefits, like it's saving you money, or it's saving you time, or it's reducing stress, or that type of thing. Community is harder. So community is amazing. We all know the power of community and what it does to someone when you're a part of it. But it's really hard to convince people to pay for that thing. The third thing is we've always had community. We've grown up with community and we've never paid for it. You've had your family, you've had your neighbourhood, you've had your school. That's community. And so people aren't really conditioned to pay for community. And this can make creating a sustainable business model or model around community really, really hard. My timer's just dropped off, by the way. But there is a silver lining. There is a way that you can create community on a really large scale that has a sustainable impact. And that's by building a community around a product, or building a product that really serves a community. And the value is that people are prepared to pay for products. They pay for products. They understand the value. And when you're providing a community around a product, you have a huge unique value proposition that is also really hard to replicate for other people. And you create the space or the reality that community provides. It's just that you can optimize and pay for doing things better and on a larger scale because people are paying for that particular product. There's some really great examples of companies that have done this incredibly well overseas. So Y Combinator is one of the largest, most successful accelerator in the world. And their product really is successful startups or successful companies. But what their true value is community. So it's the community that comes with there's over 3,000 founders that are part of this community It's from the founders, from the investors and the advisors that form this great accelerator program. But everyone talks about the product. They talk about the startups. They talk about the $80 billion valuation. They don't understand the community. Another really good example is Airbnb. So Airbnb's product is somewhere that you can sell your spare space and an opportunity to get cheaper accommodation. But the real value of Airbnb is the community. It's the experience that you have when you stay in someone's house and you automatically become their friend. And Airbnb have worked incredibly hard to create this amazing community of event hosts. So how can you make your community more scalable? And firstly, find the problems within your community that people are prepared to pay for. The awesome thing about community is that you have spent time and energy creating this amazing ecosystem, so you're in an excellent position to take time and ask people what they really care about and what they're prepared to pay for. Then carve out your values. So figure out what is unique about what you're creating and how you can turn that into something that you can charge for. Don't be afraid to ask for money. So this is one thing that I find as well, is that community builders don't intrinsically value what they do, because society doesn't really value a lot of the qualities that come with building communities. But you're putting time into things, and if you want to continue to do it, then you need to charge for it. Otherwise, you end up doing other work that you have to charge for, and you don't have the time to put into building your community. Don't be afraid of turning it into a business or turning it into something to make it sustainable. And similar to what building on what Rowan said, if you stick to your values and you're relentless about your values, then you won't, in my experience, although I will say Mum's Garage is still quite young, you won't lose the magic that you started with that community. So I wasn't too sure how to finish this because I literally had a million things that I wanted to say in this presentation. So I thought I would end it with a disclaimer, particularly for community builders, and that's, I wanted you to think about what you're hoping for, because for me, with Mum's Garage, I'm trying to build something that's really big, and so I need to turn it into something that can fund itself. So this is my learning, and this is the takeouts that I'm trying to apply to Mum's Garage by building programs and workshops, events that people will pay for. And I want to do that because I want to focus on providing value just to that community and providing enough value that people are prepared to create a value exchange, which is money. And for me, that's more important than taking on sponsors or taking on government funding, because I don't want to provide value to people who I don't care as much about. So I encourage you to think about what you're hoping for and how you can turn that into the thing that enables you to have that impact.